Hey guys, it's Russell back and Diesel Photo Bombing. On today's video, I'm going to show you something odd with the '89 Chevy K1500 and the noise that it's making, and see if you can try to guess what it is. Alright, so as soon as I pull the camera out, it doesn't do it. So I'm going to cut in to this video with a clip of what it was doing the other morning.
If I turn the car off, turn the truck off and restart it, it doesn't do it. Stop.
All right, so let me tell you what I think is going on. I'm 99.9% sure. So at first glance, it would appear maybe the torque converter bolts and or the flex plate could be damaged. I checked that. The torque converter bolts are all super tight. That's not the problem. So what I believe is the problem is the, I wanna hear that? This is a brand new starter. Okay, this is a Denso starter. If you have a Chevy, these are the most awesome starters you'll ever buy. So this is what's on there right now. And what I suspect is happening is that when it's cold, okay, you know, things shrink just enough to make this pinion gear right here barely contact the flywheel. That tapping noise it's intermittent. It only does it in the morning when it's cooler. It never ever does it when it's warm outside or if I've been running the truck for a while. But as you saw in the video, when I turn it off and turn it back on, it pretty much doesn't make it. So my theory is that there's enough heat to have this shaft expand just a tiny bit amount to keep that pinion gear from basically contacting the flywheel. And it's just barely doing it. It almost sounds like a little washer or something that's rattling around the flywheel. But anyway, when I take the old starter off, we're going to do this, but there's no noise, okay? No noise at all. And you're going to see, I bet when I take that starter off, it's going to be some noise, okay? So anyway, I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now, if you've got a full-size Chevy starter, you know that it's about 60% bigger physically than this. This starter is more powerful, and there is no way that you can, this thing is probably 9-10 pounds. The Chevy starter, I think, is probably, gosh, 3 times that weight, and this starter is more powerful. So Denso, if you can get Denso anything, they're absolutely phenomenal. We have to use their bolts. Their bolts are a little shorter than the factory bolts. And also I'm going to be showing you how to use the wire gauge. They include shims in here. If you're replacing your starter with a Denso starter, especially if it's a GM, whether it doesn't have to be a truck, it could be a Blazer, Suburban, Camaro, whatever. This will be the easiest install you'll ever do. If you've ever had to fight with those giant GM starters that are on there, this is basically a one-hand job. It's very easy. There's 2 connections on the back that we're going to be making. This connection, this large terminal right here, is directly from the positive terminal of the battery, and it has a dedicated cable that goes right here. And this smaller connection right here is the same thing as the S on the terminal of your GM starter. You'll see it's not on these, but on a General Motors starter, you'll have 2 posts. One is an S, and then one is an R, and the S is usually over here. But what that means is that wire is what goes to your ignition. The R is what goes to, it supplies 12 volts while you're cranking if you've got points type distributor, and it goes back to the coil to power the coil while the actual car is cranking, and then or truck or whatever you're working on, and then when you release the key, it goes back to no voltage. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys the setup that we've got and kind of step through this. It's going to be really hard to shoot this. So this is, I'll do my best. Anyway, that's the plan. And yes, this was under warranty. All right, so I've got the truck up on a jack stand. I keep the floor jack there just for double protection. The manager's here. So I've taken the passenger side wheel off. I've also disconnected the battery. All right, so there's a shot of the solenoid right there. And the large lug is going to be a 13 millimeter. And the smaller wire nut is going to be an 8 millimeter. And what's good is you can use a 1/4 inch drive to get it from in here. You don't have to try to do it from the bottom. Now I also took the splash shield that was here off as a rubber splash shield, which will make the job easier. All right, so let me turn the light down a little bit. I'm attempting to do this with the camera. So it literally took me not even 1 minute to take the 2 connectors loose. If you're used to doing a GM, normal size GM starter, you will not have this much room. It's crazy. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the 2 bolts loose to this brace, these 2 tubular braces, and just pivot it out of the way. And then I'm going to take the torque converter and flywheel inspection cover. I'm going to take that loose. I'm not going to be able to take it off because of the exhaust pipe, but I don't need to. I'll be able to slide it over so I can see the flywheel. All right, so I have removed all the bolts out of this plate right here, and I've just slid it out to the side, like I said. And this way we can see we have access to the flywheel when we do our measurements. And so basically all that's left is, sorry about the weird upside down camera angle. I'm just going to take the 2 bolts out here and drop the starter down, and I'll show you what it looks like when we come back. All right, so there's the starter out. Now I want to show you guys, listen. See the Bendix? That's what's causing that noise. If you see on this one, it's supposed to be tight. It's not supposed to move. So that is causing the tapping noise. So the place where I bought this, the guy has been doing this I think for about 15 years, and he said that this is only the fourth starter, Denso starter of this that he's ever had to warranty out. So they're great starters. Literally, this job is, I'm going to say 5 minutes. Now, if this were the regular starter, the gigantic heavy 40-pound or 35-pound starter, it's not. It's not. So anyway, let me. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys how a starter actually works. Since I have it out, and we'll get some battery clamps, you may not realize exactly how it works, and I'm going to show you that while it's out. All right. So what I've done is I've hooked my battery over here up to the starter. I've got it grounded, and I want to show you what happens when you turn your ignition key. You send 12 volts to this terminal right here. Okay, this back terminal, the big terminal, always has 12 volts on it. But what happens is this is a solenoid, and a couple things are happening. When you energize this right here by turning the key, it will. Now watch the Bendix. Okay, it kicks the Bendix out, and it also makes a contact here so that the power from the battery goes into the starter motor itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up, if I can do this without electrocuting myself, I'm going to hook up the power. Okay, now I have power to the large terminal, just like you would have. And I'm going to take this jumper, and this will simulate you turning the key. Now the starter should actually operate. See that? This is not a really good connection right here, so let me see if I can hold it. Okay. Hopefully you guys are seeing that. That's exactly how a starter operates. And the problem, obviously, that I was having was I was getting that tapping noise because this Bendix is supposed to stay back there, and it was hitting the flywheel. So my theory is, when this shaft heated up just a tiny bit, it was enough to prevent the Bendix from sliding forward. So with that being said, we know what the problem is. So we're going to take the brand new starter and I'm going to install it. But let me show you what it looks like up under there with the starter removed. All right, so there, it's all kinds of room. Here's the mounting pad for the starter. You've got one bolt hole here and one bolt hole there. And here's the flywheel. The Bendix engages the teeth of the flywheel and turns it. And of course, this is bolted to the crankshaft and spins the engine over. So there's a lot of room under here. That sensor right there is, that you see at the tip of my finger, that's the knock sensor. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bolt this starter up, and I'm going to show you how to check the clearance, because that's very important in order to have the teeth of the Bendix and the flywheel at the proper mesh and in the proper orientation. All right, so it's taking me 10 minutes to try to get this shot. The problem is the lighting, and I've had to switch to the GoPro, and I'll try to hold this still as I can. So this gauge right here, I just bent it. It's an 1/8 inch gauge that they include with the starter. And what you want to do is you want to put this gauge between the flywheel teeth and the pinion shaft. And you should just feel just a tiny slight bit of drag. Okay. And that's perfect. So I know these shots are really hard to get. You can find some YouTube videos where people actually are doing this on an engine stand without it in the car, but most people are going to be doing this in the car. So you can use an 1/8 inch drill bit, but I need something that was bent, because on a 700R transmission, the access is a little bit more limited than it would be if you were using like a turbo hydromatic 350 or 400. But just make sure just to take this gauge and slide it in between there, and there should be a slight drag. And the instructions tell you what to do if there is too much clearance or not enough clearance to adjust it. All right, so I want to show you guys again what I was doing. This is the shaft that we're talking about right here. And I was just taking this and sliding this in between. I'm going to let this stay here. Just like that. The flywheel teeth are down like this. So you're measuring the distance between this shaft and the flywheel teeth, which are right here, and it should be at 1/8 of an inch. All right, I've got the starter bolted up. I've got the wires connected. Everything's nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and put the negative cable back on the battery. Snug that up. All right, let's start it up and see what it sounds like.